It is almost time for the NHL's regular season to start. We are only a day away from the 25-26 season, which means for me, it's prediction season. So today I'm going to give you my standings predictions for the upcoming year, division by division, tell you who makes the playoffs and who's my early pick for the Stanley Cup. And that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today is prediction day. We are only a day away from the beginning of the 25-26 NHL regular season. The wait is over. The preseason is done. Rosters have been set. And now it's time to get down to business. So it's for fun purposes only. Of course, I know I'm going to get some of these wrong. So feel free to give me your thoughts. Give me your predictions in the comments. Let's talk about this in a hopefully mature, civilized way. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. But instead of just calling my picks, bad, why don't you leave me yours and we can discuss and see who ends up being right down the road. So like I said, just for fun, let's dive in and get started with the Western Conference. I'm going to start at the bottom of each division and work our way up to the top. Then I'll tell you who the playoff teams are and how I think things are going to go quickly. I don't want to make this video too crazy long, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each team. In the Pacific Division, last place, I have the San Jose Sharks. All kinds of talent, great young kids, exciting team to watch. I just don't think they're there yet. They got a lot of dead money. There's still a lot of learning and developing going on. I don't think they can get out of the basement this year. Number 7, I have the Seattle Kraken. Again, another team that I think is going to be bottom 3 or 4 in the Western Conference. To me, they just haven't done enough to really work their way up the ladder here. This team is kind of stuck behind some, I don't know what to call it, just some not great analytics. They need some people to really take a step forward. I think we are going to see a nice big season from Shane Wright. But otherwise, I think it's going to be another year of sorrow for Seattle near the bottom of the standings. In 6th place, I've got the Calgary Flames. Now, the Flames, to me, they have some question marks on this roster that I'm not sure of. I do wonder if we might see a bit of a step back from last year. Maybe even a bit of a sell-off in a few areas, like a Rasmus Anderson trade. I wonder about Nazem Kadri. I don't think for sure it's going to happen, but if things get bleak enough, maybe they consider it. Is Dustin Wolf going to be able to duplicate last year? I just have some questions that I'm not sure really can get answered, and I think that there might be some other teams in this division that have improved more than Calgary this year, so I think I'm going to see a little bit of a slip for the Flames down to 6th place. At number 5, I've got the upstart Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are going to be a better team this year, definitely going to improve on last year. I see their point totals going up. Will they get all the way to the playoffs? We'll find out in a few minutes here when I tell you the playoff teams, but they're definitely working their way up the ladder. They get a new coach. They made some, good changes, I think. They brought in some veterans. They get some good youth. I think we're going to see some good progress this year, but I think that's about as high as they can go. In 4th place, I've got the Los Angeles Kings. I'm not a big fan of the moves that Ken Holland has made. I think the D-core is going to be less mobile, more likely for injuries, not as strong defensively. I have concerns that Darcy Kemper can duplicate last year as well. So, I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year, but can he be as good as last year? That's going to be tough, especially when I think the D-core in front of him might not be quite as good. And then you've got, of course, the final curtain call here for Anze Kopitar. That's going to be an exciting storyline to watch and see just all the last bit of things he can accomplish here in the NHL. But ultimately, I think they're going to be 4th place in the wild card race. Number 3, I've got the Vancouver Canucks. I think this team can improve this year. I think Adam Foote will be a good kind of continuation of Rick Tocchet in a sense. You're going to have a motivated Quinn Hughes. Obviously, just a year away from a contract extension if he chooses to stay. You've got a very motivated bounce-back candidate in Elias Pettersson. You got a new, rejuvenated, re-signed Brock Besser. You've got some healthy goaltenders in Demko and Lankinen. That tandem could be one of the better ones in the league. I think their D-core is decent. They've got some scoring. I think they're still going to be on the lookout for another guy to add to this mix up front, especially with the Höglander injury to start the year. But I think they can hold their own and get into 3rd place. Number 2, I've got the Vegas Golden Knights, and this was a bit of a toss-up. I think 1-2, obviously the other team left here is Edmonton. I think they're going to be very, very, very close. Wouldn't be surprised if it's even just 1 or 2 point difference. Vegas, of course, is going to be getting the first year of Mitch Marner, teaming up with Jack Eichel, which makes the right side of their forward group that much deeper with, of course, Marner and Stone. They're going to be a real good offensive team. They're a pretty good defensive team, but to start the year, they're going to be without Alex Pietrangelo. We know he's likely not coming back. I do think they will make a move to shore up that blue line, and depending on when they make that move, of course, could be a big difference here, but I think Vegas will be a big threat. But I have them in second place. And then, of course, number one, I do have the Edmonton Oilers first place in the Pacific. Coming off a newly signed extension, Connor McDavid is going to be more motivated than ever. We know just how much he wants to win. I think this team is going to have a new look this year. They do have a lot of new faces, a lot of changes from last year. They are going to be younger. I do have some concerns, of course, but the Oilers have been so good the past couple of years. I think they can get it done. So we know the top three teams, of course, go to the playoffs. So that's Vegas, Edmonton, Vancouver. We'll discuss the wildcard teams here in a minute once we get through the other division. So in the Central, last place. This one for me was easy. The Chicago Blackhawks in 8th. Again, lots of young talent. I think Connor Bedard is going to have a much better year. I think there's going to be some other young talent really impress us this year as well, including newly signed extension Frank Nazar. I think you're going to see a good year out of Spencer Knight, some of the D-men as well. But again, just a lot of developing going on, a lot of youth in key positions. So I don't see them getting out of the basement just yet. Number 7, I've got the Nashville Predators. Logically, you could say that they're going to bounce back and be better. And a lot of people are saying that. To me, they got to prove it before I can buy in and believe it. They didn't really do much of anything to really change this team. They're another year older. They got a lot of veteran guys who didn't work out well last year. Why should I think they're going to be better? To me, I need to see more on the ice before I can buy into what some people are selling on the Predators, so I have them in 7th. Number 6, this might come across as a hot take to some, but I've got the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild, they're still going to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. I think this Central Division is going to be really tight and really tough. But just because they spent a ton of money on Kirill Kaprizov and then they extended Gustafsson, to me, I still just don't know that they're going to be in the top 3, let alone 4 or 5 teams in this division. It's going to be very tight, and I just think that some teams have done more to improve and are going to pass them to get into the playoffs. So I have Minnesota in 6. And I'm sure some people will disagree with me on that one. Number 5, I've got the Utah Mammoth. Again, building off last year, I think Andre Tourigny could be one of the head coaches in the conversation for the Jack Adams this year. I think the team is going to continue to improve and have a much better shot at playoffs. I think you're going to see the addition of J.J. Peterka work out quite well. Clayton Keller is going to take another step. You've got Dylan Gunter who's going to take another step. Logan Cooley. The one question is kind of between the pipes a little bit, but all in all, I like this team. If they can stay healthy, I think they have a real good shot at playoffs. Last year, health was a big issue to start the year, which hopefully they won't run into that this year. Number 4, we've got the St. Louis Blues. I think the Blues are going to be a team that bounces back this year. A full year of Jim Montgomery behind the bench is going to make a huge difference for this team. He seems to be a little bit of a wizard, if you will, coaching from a defensive standpoint. Goaltenders seem to do very well under his tutelage, the way he likes to play and structure the team. So, in all honesty, I think you're going to get a big year out of Jordan Binnington, especially with another opportunity to represent his country at the Olympics coming out. And I think this team will very much be in the mix for playoffs. Number 3, I've got the Winnipeg Jets. I do have them taking a little bit of a step back from last year with the loss of Nikolai Ehlers. They do have some injuries to start the season as well with Adam Lowry and Dylan Sandberg. I still think they're a very good team. I think they'll be a top team to mess with in the Western Conference, but I'd be surprised if they went on a tear at the beginning of the season with the injuries they have. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, and like I said, it wouldn't be shocking if they did, because when you got one of the best goalies in the world and Connor Hellebuyck and some of the top forwards like Scheifele and Connor and Morrissey on the back end, sometimes those guys can take over games and they can win you more than you think. But I just think the top of that division is going to be really, really tight. Winnipeg's dealing with some injuries to start the year, so I can see them maybe just being a little bit below last year's pace and being a little bit behind. In second place, I've got the Dallas Stars, another really good team. Jake Ottinger will again likely be a solid year, probably be in the Vezina conversation. This is going to be another team that's very much in contention. New coach, of course. But yeah, there's not a lot different from last year. I wonder about, Jason Robertson's future. I wonder about a full year of Mikko Rantanen going through training camp, getting acclimated, how he'll do. But I think the Dallas Stars will once again be a force, and I have them in second place. And then in first place, that leaves us with the Colorado Avalanche, the return of Gabe Landeskog, another big year out of Nate McKinnon, Cale Makar. Clearly, Marty Natchez is playing for a contract now, whether he stays in Colorado or not. I think this team is well positioned to take the top spot in the Central Division. So, of course, your top three advance. That leaves you Colorado, Dallas, and Winnipeg. So your wildcard teams, in my opinion, are both coming out of the Central this year. I have St. Louis and Utah being your wildcard teams, which unfortunately means LA and Anaheim missed the playoffs. I know that might be bold, and same goes for Minnesota. Looking at last year, I like when I make my predictions, I do like to see, because it's a given that from year to year, there's usually at least one or two different teams in the playoffs compared to the year before. And for me, I guess I'm picking on Minnesota and LA a little bit this year. I just think teams like Utah and Vancouver can improve enough to get past them. So we will see. That would set up a Western Conference playoff of the Colorado Avalanche against the Blues, because I'd have the Oilers taking top spot and getting the wild card too. So it'd be Edmonton, Utah, so we can avoid Edmonton, LA for a change. That would give us Vegas, Vancouver, and that would give us Dallas, Winnipeg. So then I would have Colorado advancing over St. Louis. I would have Dallas advancing over Winnipeg, Edmonton advancing over Utah, and Vegas advancing over Vancouver, giving us Colorado, Dallas, Vegas, Edmonton in your second round. And then I would have Edmonton, Colorado winning both of those series, setting up a McDavid versus McKinnon conference final with the Oilers going to the Cup final for the third straight season. That might be boring to some of you, but I think it's going to happen. McDavid's on a mission, and I'm not one to bet against him where I've bet on him the last couple of years. I think I'd be foolish to change my mind. Now, to the Eastern Conference. We'll start with the Metro. 8th place, Pittsburgh Penguins. I have them being one of the worst teams in the league this year. I think they're going to be in contention for the first overall pick when it comes time to the draft lottery as well. There's just not enough talent there. The big storylines in Pittsburgh will be, does Malkin or Crosby decide to leave? And to be honest, I don't know the answers to those questions, and I don't think the answers to those questions will impact where they're at. I think Pittsburgh, unfortunately, bottoms out in the Metro this year. Number 7, I've got the Flyers. I honestly don't think the Flyers have had a great preseason. I know they got a new coach in Rick Tocchet. Sometimes you see a new coach bump. I don't love the goaltending. The back end and the defense has got some question marks. They do have some good forwards. But again, I don't think they have enough to go much further than that. I'm not big on the Flyers this year. Number 6, I've got the New York Islanders. The Islanders will be a good team, but not a great team. I think it's important that they don't get stuck too high in the mushy middle here. I think the Islanders, after a slowish start, may sell off a few veteran players and kind of make sure that they get themselves a good pick this year. You're going to see a different approach with Matthew Darche instead of Lou Lamoriello. I wonder about the future of Patrick Waugh. Will he get through the season? Hard to say. They're going to be a fun team to watch in a sense. I'm really looking forward to watching Matthew Schaefer and some of the other, a full season of like Barzal and like Horvat. Those guys are going to be fun to watch, but is Sorokin going to be as good as he can be as well? Because of those guys, they're going to win more games than the other teams like Philly and Pittsburgh, but I don't see them making the playoffs right now. Number 5, I've got the Columbus Blue Jackets. They were in the mix in the wild card race for a large part of last year, fell out in the last week or two of the season. They did battle a lot of injuries as well, so it's going to be curious to see how they do. I have Columbus in 5th place here, so it's not a given they make the playoffs, but I do think it's quite possible that they're in that wild card race again, reasonably late like they were last year, but I'm not sure they can get over the hump. I have question marks around a few spots in their lineup. I wonder if Jet Greaves takes over the goaltending duties from Elvis Merzlikins as he move on this year, and that could be an interesting storyline that maybe changes their fate and kind of proves my prediction wrong a little bit too. Number 4, I've got the Washington Capitals. I don't think the Capitals can duplicate what they did last year. I think everything went right. I think the push for Ovi's record was just an extra motivation, and just like I said, it just seemed like everything went their way last year. They're a good team for sure. Can Logan Thompson duplicate what he did? History will show that he's never done that before, so to think he could do it back-to-back years might be a stretch. We'll find out. They're an older team as well. They got a few younger players, but I'm just not convinced that they can be as good as last year, and I think they're going to take a bit of a step back and be more towards the middle of the division. Number 3, I've got the New York Rangers. Of course, number 3 gets them a playoff spot. I think the Rangers are going to be fairly improved here. I don't know if they're going to get to the top of the division or anything like that, of course, with this prediction, but I do see Mike Sullivan changing some things up. We've got a new captain with JT Miller, a full season of Miller, some changes with guys like Kreider no longer there. Can they rejuvenate Mika Zibanejad? What can Adam Fox do? I do think there's still some issues with this team from it being a top contender, but I think they've improved enough and they can play better enough to get into a playoff spot. Number 2, I've got the New Jersey Devils. Of course, the health of Jack Hughes is going to be imperative this year. Jack has had a lot of injuries in his career. He's also had times when he's stayed healthy, and this team is so much better when he's healthy. Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes is a really good 1-2 punch down the middle. They got some great guys on the back end. Luke Hughes slowly becoming the team's top defender now. You get the goaltending tandem solidified. This team, provided they stay healthy, will be one of the top teams in this division and one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the Eastern Conference. That leaves first place to the Carolina Hurricanes. I do think the Hurricanes can grab top spot this year. The addition of Nikolai Ehlers, a full year of Stankoven. I think overall, before the Rantanen trade, because that backfired famously on them last year, but if you look at where they were before Rantanen showed up with Natchez, if they would have traded Natchez for Stankoven and Ehlers, I think they're a deeper team because of it. Now, I realize Ehlers was a free agent, so it's not really maybe not a fair comparison, but essentially, if you think about it, Natchez is out, Rantanen is out, Stankoven and Ehlers are in. So if you look at where they were, I think, personally, they're a better team with that. You do need Andrei Svechnikov, though, to produce more. That's a big X factor for me. I love Seth Jarvis and Aho. I think Jarvis is going to continue to evolve here. Wants to get back on Team Canada for the Olympics. That'll be a big motivation for him. Same goes for Aho, which we know he's going to be part of his country's team. But this team is going to be very solid defensively, and I think they'll be more offensive threat than they were before, and will grab top spot in the Metro. So we know Carolina, New Jersey, and the Rangers, according to this prediction, are going into the playoffs. Now, to the Atlantic. Might be one of the most highly contested divisions in the NHL. I'm not so sure it's the deepest anymore, but it's really, really tight. Last place, I do have the Boston Bruins. I know there's a few people that have faith that they're going to bounce back, but look at that roster. I know Jeremy Swayman can do better, and I'm sure he will. You have a full year hopefully of Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, and that'll help the back end. But that forward group, it leaves a lot to be desired. I will say this, they will be tough to play against, and you're going to have to go in there expecting to probably have a lot of battles on the boards and probably a few scrums and a few scraps. But I don't see the Boston Bruins winning a lot of hockey games this year, and I think they're the weakest of the group in the Atlantic. Number 7, I've got Detroit. Now, again, I wish we had better things for Detroit, but that blue line, again, still leaves a lot to be desired. I know we saw Hall and Gustafsson on waivers, but still, it still needs improving. The goaltending is still questionable. They pick up John Gibson, but his health has been a major question point, and he hasn't been, peak John Gibson for a while. So I don't have a lot of faith that this goaltending is going to be great either. The forward group can score. The forward group is by far their strength, but their ability to defend and keep the puck out of the net will ultimately be their demise. Number 6, I've got the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres, again, did not do a lot in the offseason. They are going into the season with some question marks regarding injuries. Luukkonen's hurt or dealing with something. Kesselring, who was a new acquisition in the Peterka trade, is injured. Something going on with Tuck. Will Tuck extend? That's another storyline. Again, I want to believe that the Sabres are better. I think Josh Norris having a full season there, paired up with Tage Thompson, they look good in the preseason, could be lethal. But this is another team, like I said about some of the other teams, like seeing is believing. I can't believe the Sabres are going to be a playoff team until they prove it to me. It's just been way too long to say they're going to be in when they just continuously find ways to take steps back. So we will see where that goes. Now, this one might be a hot take as well. Number 5, defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Now, hear me out. Now, I think the Panthers are due for regression. They're going to be the whole year without Barkov, and they're going to be almost half the year without Matthew Tkachuk. Those two guys are like super important. Now, they're going to have a good blue line. They still have a good goalie, Bobrovsky. He can keep up his play at age 37, but I don't see them scoring as much. I think they're going to have a tougher time. I'm not saying they're not going to be good, but I just see the Panthers taking a step back when you've got teams coming up like Ottawa, Montreal on the rise. Tampa and Toronto, to me, not dealing with the same sort of beast, losing 2 major contributors for an extended time like that. I think they will get better as the year goes along, especially after Tkachuk comes back. But I kind of expect them to maybe be a little bit questionable in the beginning of the year, which might prevent them from getting higher in the standings. At number 4, I've got the Montreal Canadiens. I have the Habs moving up 1 spot this year. Again, they had a good offseason. I do wonder about the future of Patrick Laine, where he fits. I do have concerns that Noah Dobson could quickly become the team's new whipping boy. Again, if Lane Hudson's going to be on power play 1, then I just don't know how Dobson's going to be able to produce the kind of offense that he can have to justify $9.5 million. So I do wonder how that's going to work out. Again, but they've got a lot of weapons there. They got one of the top rookies in Ivan Demidov. Hopefully a bounce back year for Kirby Dach. This team looks like they're ready to continue where they left off last year and take another step. So I have them moving up 1 more spot in the standings. Number 3, the same goes for the Ottawa Senators. I have them taking another step along with Montreal and each moving them up 1 spot. I think Ottawa, a lot of people are going to give them crap for not having a big offseason. Well, they did most of their work at the trade deadline. They picked up, the big trade with the Sabres for Dylan Cousins. They picked up Fabian Zetterlund. They really changed the whole dynamic here of the forward group and really improved that 5-on-5 scoring, which a lot of people want to harp on. They've got a pretty solid back end. I think the Jordan Spence acquisition could be sneaky good. Linus Ullmark should settle in a second year as well. And I think this team is poised just to continue what they were building last year and just take it a little bit further. And like I said, teams like Ottawa and Montreal have the most to gain with the injuries in Florida to start the year. Number 2, I've got the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really wonder about Toronto. I wonder if they could slip more too. The loss of Mitch Marner is going to be proving tough to make up for. But you do have Matthews, like I said, who had a down year last year. Can he get back to being a 60-goal man without Marner? That's a big question, I wonder. Marner played a big role in obviously contributing to a lot of his success. Not saying they're not great players without each other. They obviously are. But I wonder what it's going to be like for him. Can his new line mates and a guy like Michelli come in and help him be that 50 to 60 goal man? They need him to be, especially in Marner's absence. You have some other guys expected to do more, score more by committee. What's the ceiling for Matthew Nyes? Can Willie Nylander come? Can he produce any more than he's already doing? Because he's already a great player. Joseph Wall's absence we don't know when he's coming back. That's a concern for me as well. So there's some question marks with Toronto that we don't know the answers to, which is why I'm not sure they can win the division. I still think they're going to be quite strong. That's why I have them in second place. And number 1, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. I do wonder about something's going on with Vasilevsky. I know he played that last preseason game. Obviously, it wasn't a great result. Most of that was from the power play, though, so it's hard to put a lot of stock into it. Seems like they're going to keep 3 goalies around, which makes me wonder if there's something more there that they may not be sharing. But the Lightning are still a really, really good team. Another year older, yes, but again, I think they probably had the most consistency between them, Toronto, and Florida among the team that's kind of coming back from last year. So I have the Lightning winning the division for 25-26. So that gives you Tampa, Toronto, Ottawa is 1, 2, 3. You've got Carolina, Jersey, the Rangers, 1, 2, 3 in the Metro. That gives the wildcard teams for me will be the Habs and the Panthers. That sets up the Eastern Conference playoffs. I have Carolina being the top seed, so they have the highest amongst the two division winners. So they would play the wild card number 2 spot, which I do have as the Panthers. So it's Carolina versus Florida. Of course, New Jersey versus the Rangers. That would set up Tampa Bay versus Montreal, and another Battle of Ontario, Toronto versus Ottawa. I do think that the Panthers are bound to slow down this year. I'm not predicting a three-peat. I think the Canes take them out. I also think that the Devils take out the Rangers in the first round as well. So Carolina and New Jersey both advance. Obviously, that leaves Tampa against Montreal. I still think the experience in Tampa. A Lightning versus Habs matchup would be rather interesting for sure. Tampa has not had a lot of playoff success the last couple of years, and it wouldn't be shocking for me at all to see an upset here and have Montreal beat Tampa in round 1. That also leaves us the Battle of Ontario, which I think could have a different outcome as well. I think the Senators learned a lot last year, and like I said, with the changes in Toronto, I'm not so sure they're a better team this year. Even though Tampa and Toronto might finish ahead of Ottawa and Montreal in the regular season, I can see a scenario existing where they both upset those top teams and both go on to play each other in round 2. And that would be such a fun series considering how much these two teams now hate each other. For the Senators to have a series with the Leafs and the Habs in the same playoff season would be enormous for that fan base for sure. I do think Ottawa is a little bit stronger than Montreal right now, and it would be a deep, fun, entertaining series, but I do think they would win that kind of matchup, and I also think that the Carolina Hurricanes would outdo the New Jersey Devils. So that would set up a Hurricanes versus Senators Eastern Conference final, and I think the Hurricanes ultimately would prevail in that case, being the more seasoned team here. That would set up a Carolina versus Edmonton Stanley Cup final, a rematch of 2006. And this will finally be the year that Connor McDavid gets to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup after third time is the charm, after all. Of course, like I said, let me know your thoughts, your predictions. You don't like mine, you don't agree with mine, that's fine. Tell me yours in the comments so we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.